Hello there and welcome to lab number 7 of this course. In this lab, I'm going to configure the DHCP server on one Huawei router to be able to provide IP addresses automatically to other routers. We have to go through the 8 points that we see here in front of us, but before we start going through the points, let me first show you what is the network diagram. Here is our network diagram. As you can see here, we have router 1 and we have router 2 over here and router 3 that are all connected to the switch. And in this case, what I need to do, I need to configure router 1 to become the DHCP server. Okay, so when this is configured on the router 1 to become a DHCP server, it will automatically provide IP addresses to these interfaces of router 3 and to the router 2. Okay, now you can see that the DHCP is sitting inside the same network where the DHCP client, so these are the DHCP client, okay, and this router here is the DHCP server, so he's sitting in the same network. Then in this case I'm going to use the way that Huawei provides us, which is select interface. Okay, so this is what I want to do in this lab now. Let's go now and see what are the steps that we need to follow. Okay, point number 1, enable DHCP on R1. What does it mean? Before we start configuring the DHCP, by default on Huawei routers, the DHCP process is disabled. That means you cannot configure the router to become a DHCP server. There is no process for the DHCP to work. Okay, so what we need to do first, we have to enable the DHCP process on router 1. We can go here to router 1 and the command is DHCP enable. Once we do that, then now the DHCP process is working. Okay, let's see what we have to do on point number 2. But before let's check point number 1. So enable DHCP on router 1, that's done. Put an IP address of 192.168.0.1 on the gigabit 0/0/0 interface. Why we need that? If we go here again, we said that this is going to be the DHCP server, router 1, correct? So router 1 is going to be the DHCP server. From this interface here, he will send the IP addresses to the network devices that are requesting to have an IP address from him. So we require to put an IP address on this interface to be able to communicate with the other network devices. Okay, it's going to be like a gateway for the other devices. So let's go and put an IP address on the gigabit 0/0/0 of router 1. So we go to router 1 and then interface gigabit 0/0/0. I will put an IP address of 192.168.0.1 and then the subnet mask is 24. If I say display IP interface brief, then we see that it is set on gigabit 0/0/0, 192.168.0.1. Okay, very good. So let me go and check what is the other point. So point number 2 is done. Point number 3, let the DHCP works on the interface gigabit 0/0/1 of router 1. So now what we need to do, as this router is connected to the network where all other network devices are, so it's not in another network, so it's in the same network where the other network devices are. In this case, what we need to do, we have to put a command to say, okay, this interface is from where the DHCP will be provided, so the DHCP IP addresses will be provided. To do that, we have to go to router 1 again, and then inside the gigabit ethernet 0/0/0, I have to say DHCP select a question mark, and I will say interface. Okay, DHCP select interface. So that means that this interface is gonna be like, from this interface there will be the IP addresses, the pool where to provide IP addresses to the other network devices. Okay, so point number 3 is also done. Now configure the pool to provide DNS lease for 3 days and exclude the IP address of 192.168.0.2. So we don't want that this pool, which is on the interface that we have just configured, gigabit 0/0/0, it will provide all IP address from 192.168.0. something. One is normally for the gateway, so it's unused, and then we say here we also want that 0.2 to not be included inside this pool. So think like 0.2 is an IP address for a file server that you have in your network that is fixed. You don't want that the file server to take an IP address automatically, because all people or all users inside your network has to reach this file server, so it needs to have a static IP address. So we need to exclude that, and we have to put the DNS, and we have to put the lease for 3 days. So how to do that? We have to go from here, and then we say DHCP ? And then we have server. Okay, DHCP server ? And here we can see we have list of things we can do. So they said to put the DNS, so let's put the DNS, and that's the DNS that the users requesting the DHCP, so other network devices will have on their interface. So I'll put the DNS, for example, 8.8.8.8, and then DHCP server, and then we have to choose the lease we set for 3 days. So we say here ? lease day, and we want it to be for 3 days. That is what they requested from us. Let's check also again. So 3 days, yeah. So I'll put it 3 days. You can also put, for example, the hours, the minutes, but in our case they asked for 3 days. And then we have also to put, they said, the excluding IP addresses. So we have to say DHCP server excluded IP address, and we have to put the IP address here, which is 192.168.0.2. This we don't want to be inside the pool, and then we say enter. Okay, so this is what is asked over here to do. So point number 4 is done. Configure the pool to provide DNS, we've done it. Lease for 3 days and exclude the IP address 192.168.0.2. Okay, now point number 5. Configure R2 and R3 interfaces, or the interface gigabit 0/0/0 of each of the routers to receive an IP address. Did it work? So if we go to router 2 now, or before, let's go and see the graph here. We've seen that we have finished configuring the DHCP server. Now, they said that those interfaces which are on router 2 and router 3, so this is router 2 and this is router 3, they need to get an IP address from this DHCP server, okay, which is gonna be from the range of 192.168.0. something, but not 2 because 2 is excluded, and of course not 1 because 1 is gonna be the gateway for them. So they asked that, okay, configure these interfaces to receive the IP address from the DHCP server. So in this case, these interfaces should be like DHCP client, okay, client to receive the IP address from the DHCP server. So let's go to each of the interfaces and do the conversion and see if it's gonna work. So I go now to router 2, and from here I will go to system view, then I'll go to the interface gigabit 0/0/0. I say IP address and then DHCP and then unlock. So, and then I say enter. Then look here what they said. Please enable DHCP in the global view first. All right, because remember router 2 we didn't enable the DHCP on it, so the process is still off. That's why it doesn't work. So here, if we want to answer the question, they ask us if it works, like configure router 2 and router 3 interface gigabit 0/0/0 to receive an IP address. Did it work? No, it doesn't work. Now point number 6, fix the problem and let R2 and R3 gigabit 0/0/0 receive an IP address. Okay, so how we can do it? So we go first to router 2, and I will have to say DHCP enable. That's first thing I need to do. Then I will go to interface again, gigabit 0/0/0, and then from here I have to say IP address, and then from here I have to say DHCP and then unlock and question mark, the command is finished, and then I click enter. So we wait a few seconds because now there will be some communication between the DHCP client and the server, and in this case we can see that the line is up now. That means it has received an IP address. If I say now display IP interface brief, then we can see directly that this IP address or this interface has received an IP address of 192.168.0.254. Okay, so it has been received automatically from the DHCP server. If I go now to router 3, I have to enable DHCP also. And then let's say first display IP interface brief. We look now and we see that there is no IP address on gigabit Ethernet interface. Okay, so I will go now and I'll write interface gigabit 0/0/0 and then IP address DHCP and then alloc, and then I'll wait a few seconds and then we should be able to receive an IP. You can see now the line came up. So now if I say display IP interface brief, then we can see that it has received an IP of 192.168.0.253. So the DHCP server now is working and is allocating for us. So alloc means allocate, okay? Allocating for us IP addresses from the DHCP server. If I go to router 1 now, let me just clear and then go here. And here I can say display IP DHCP, let's write it, DHCP ? And then we can say here statistics, for example. Okay, we can see that there's some statistics here, like the discover and the request that happened over here. Okay, so we can say also display DHCP server and then ? and then here statistics. So we see here there is a total client request 4 and server reply 4. So these are the traffic of the DHCP. It happens between the client and the server when they want, say, the client to get an IP address, and the server will reply to him by giving the offer of the IP address. So in total you have, for each time that a client requests for an IP address, there is 4 communication happening between the client and the server. Okay, so in this case, when we have 4 client requests and 4 reply requests, so that's 8 in total. That means 2 clients have requested IP addresses, and this is in our case 2 routers have requested IP addresses. Okay, so now let me just clear here and I will go back to the points here. So point number 6 is done, so fix the problem and let R2 and R3 get IP addresses from the DHCP server. It's done. Now we need to ping from router 1 to router 2 and 3. So let's do it. I go to router 1 and then ping to 192.168.2.254. That's the first router which get an IP address, I think. Let's check again and we will see. So 192, so it's .0.254 and not 2.254. So again we write 192.168.0.254. So I have a reply from router 1. He can reach router 2, which is 192.168.0.254. Router 3 is 192.168.0.253. So I will say ping 192.168.0.253, and it is working. Okay. So this point also, it is done, point number 7. Before I finish the lab, I would like to add one more point. I want to add a computer on the ENSP that I'm doing now, and to see if we can also get an IP address from the DHCP server. So if you want to look what I have, this is my ENSP now. So I have a hub in the middle, okay, and then this router, so you can say also a switch in the middle, and these are the routers. So what I need to do now, I need to come and get this PC, bring it to here, okay, and then I will take a copper, and then from here I'll connect it to the hub that I have over here. So the hub is more likely one point of connection between the devices. Okay, so now before I start the PC, I just want to put it DHCP. Okay, so I want him to get an IP address automatically, put a name here, and then I will come to the PC and I will say start. Okay, let's go to the command prompt here and I will say ipconfig. We see we have no IP address now. It's IP address 0. I can say ipconfig/renew, and now in this case I'm saying for the PC to renew means to start asking for an IP address, and you can see here directly now he get an IP address from the DHCP server 192.168.0.252 with the default gateway, as you can see, but also with the DNS server that we have set 8.8.8.8. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you in this lab, how to configure the DHCP server and DHCP client as well, in case your DHCP server is inside the same network. Okay, so this is the easiest way to do it. It's very easy. It's a couple of commands. You have to always enable your DHCP process first, and then you have to select the interface that is going to be providing the IP address, and to make the pool over there and put what you want as DNS and as, for example, excluding IP addresses. All right, and by default it will send an IP address from the range which is of the IP address set on this interface with the subnet mask and default gateway, which is itself to the other network devices requesting for IP address. So this is what I wanted to show you. I hope that you enjoyed this lab also, and I'll see you in the upcoming lab.